With reaching level 30, you unlock these smart rings in MOCO. There are in total 13, and in this video we're gonna rank them all. So we're gonna talk about the pros and cons, the best builds for it, and gonna rank them from the lowest rank D to the best rank S. So if you're curious about my favorite rings in MOCO, definitely stay tuned and watch this video until the end. And with that said, thank you everybody for being here again, really appreciate it. And a big shout out to you, your support is amazing, you are really killing it. Before we hop into the video, a little bit of a disclaimer. This video is a tier list video, so it's obviously based on my own opinion, and I for sure will have a different one than you. Feel free to share your best builds down below in the comments, because that will help us each other to become better in MOCO. Smart rings, you unlock them as soon as you reach level 30 and become an elite hunter. In total there are 13 different ones, and before rating them, actually they are all pretty much even. So even though we are giving an S and a D rank, that does not mean that D is super bad or S is super OP. It's depending completely on your build. So let's get ahead and start straight with the first one, which is the Warrior's Ring. And this is obviously one of my favorite ones, since I am playing more likely around those builds with the raw damage. Together with the Vampire Thief passive, for sure you're boosting your heal as well. And that's why for me this is right now an S ranking, while I can totally see that those guys running more the builds around the gadgets or passives have more like this damage increase on the top than the general weapon increase. But for me, a good weapon with some good damage and a good passive vampirism is the main build right now. As next we are coming to the Precision Ring, which is further boosting your stats of the weapon. It gives you a 29.1% chance of getting a critical hit, and critical means in MOCO 3x the damage, which is actually really good. And since I have done the weapon speed and the weapon damage already as an S tier, well, it's for me the only logical thing to put this on S tier as well. And just remember, if you're playing around gadgets or passives mainly, these boosts will be there on the top, since they are all pretty even and it's totally depending on your build. As next we are coming to the Time Ring. Reduces the cooldown of all your gadgets and increase their damage. Cooldown reduction 9.3% and gadget damage right now on 29.8%. And I have to say that this is obviously the ring I am using the most, since either with a weapon build, a gadget build, or a passive build, passives are most likely relying either on weapons or on the gadgets, there's pretty often this one used, since most of the builds contain something or some mechanics from the gadgets itself. So every time it's actually nice to get that cooldown reduction and the increased damage, since you use your gadgets anyway. For the normal world runs, it's super good to get your gadgets faster, to farm monsters or whatever you're doing there, moving around fast. So this is for me right now the clearest S rank, I have to say that, like, because this is mainly being played in almost every build I am playing right now. So the other two we could exchange for sure for some passives as well as the gadgets, but this one here is the classical S tier for me, because I'm using it the most often. Coming now to the Explosive Ring. So this one is boosting your gadget critical chance by plus 29.8% on its current level. And as I mentioned before, if you're playing the gadgets, this would be easily an S tier. And for me, because I use pretty often the gadgets and some builds around it, it is for me a clear A tier, since it is super good to use and it boosts your further gadget damage output. As next we are coming to the Frenzy Ring, and this is the first pet ring. Pet attack speed plus 18% and pet damage plus 59%. So the boosts is even higher than, for example, the Warrior's Ring, which is boosting your weapon stats. This one is almost a double number, which is kinda crazy when I was doing this video and saw this. But in general, I am not playing the pets too often. There are some builds where we have to play the pets, especially in the solo dojos. And therefore, I am definitely using the Frenzy Ring, because I want to boost the pets damage. And that's mainly the build where I'll try to max out the amount of pets around me. So we get the turtle there, we get either the wolf or the bees, and on top we will get there the chickens. And for these use cases, the pet rings are definitely very nice to use. And that shows once more again how close they are together here. But for me, this is right now not the best one, so more likely a C tier, from the fact that I'm using it not too often. The same counts for the next one, which is the Savage Ring. It increases the pet critical chance by 49.9%. Well, we could say, hey, this is even C tier as well. I want my pets to attack fast. The critical hits not too mandatory, because some pet builds are around those passives where they can trigger the passives as well. That's why this one is a little bit lower for me. It is only the D tier since I'm using it right now the least often. So what are your thoughts on the pad rings? Are they good to use? Am I wrong here? Feel free to share your opinions down below in the comments. And if you have enjoyed the video so far, then definitely don't forget to like the video, write a nice comment, and subscribe for free to not miss any MOCO content in the future. As next we're coming to the first passive ring, which is the Pulse ring here. It boosts the passive damage by 56.9%, which is incredibly high, and that alone could lead me to bring it straight to S tier. But since there is the fact that the passives have a percentage-based trigger chance, I have the feeling that my builds are working a little bit better when I boost the gadget cooldown or the attack speed of the weapon, depending a little bit on the build. So that's why this is for me an A rank, but I can clearly see that some would say, hey, you have passives in your weapon build, you have passives in your gadget build, so why not using this one as an S tier because you use it the most often? Well, I can totally understand it, but it's a personal preference at this point, and they are so close to each other. Same counts for the next one, which is the Echo ring, also a passive ring. This one boosts, similar to the other rings, the critical damage, but this time for your passive abilities. And for the same reasons as I've mentioned before, it is also an A tier, and they are so close to each other. And now we're coming to the green rings, which are buffing somehow the HP or causing that you heal faster. The first one is the Restoration ring, which increases your healing by 40.5%. Well, for the general build with the Vampire Thief, I am actually not really using this one. Being in the dungeons and being the main healer while we have 3 damage dealers, I have for sure used this one since I want to heal my teammates as much as possible, and they are doing the damage. So this is also really heavy depending on your build, and since I can see some use cases where I would use it, it is for me a B tier, but it could be also a little bit lower, so it is definitely not as good as the other ones here, maybe even a little bit lower. But for now, as it is buffing the heal amount pretty much, I think it is a very good middle way in the B tier. As next we're coming to the Vitality ring. This one is as same as the critical rings for your weapons, gadgets and passive, boosting your crit chance, but this time for your heal by 21% on level 34. And I asked myself, hey, why is this so low comparing it to the other ones? Either this is a bug or it is intended that this critical chance is lower. For me, this is just too low, and I'm not sure why it is not even number with the other critical gadgets. So this is for me right now a C tier ring. As next we're coming to the bulk ring, and this is kind of a little bit mystery for me since I'm almost never using this one. So could be a D tier, but I can't see the use case of it since it is buffing your HP by 36.6% on the current rank. It is definitely helpful for all the rifts and 4-boss dungeons where you are the main tanky unit and trying to attract the boss that he hits you and not your teammates, which are dealing the damage, and for the normal world runs that you're not dying that often. But I can't really see the use case that often for it. For me, it is kind of a middle thing right now. Maybe that is a little bit too high rated. And similar to that, we got here a guard ring, which is not boosting your HP, but boosting your dodge chance. And there is one build with the spin sickle, which is already giving you some dodge chance, where this is really nice to use. But on the other side, it is maybe a wrong feeling, but I have the feeling that dodging is not a big thing right now in all those builds we can get there. Maybe you got some secret hidden builds with the dodging chance, where it is super useful, and since I'm not using it that often, only with the spin sickle, I'm putting it into the C tier right now. The last ring to rank today is the Beast ring, which is buffing your pet health by almost 90% on the current level, which is super high. And I think I should use this one more often, especially with those pet builds. But then on the other side, I'm not using the pet builds really often. There are some solo dojos and the group bosses where we definitely run with some pet builds, and there will be this one pretty useful. But nevertheless, I have preferred that the damage output of the pets plus one ring either boosting gadgets passives or my weapon damage. So this one is almost never used by me, and that might be wrong, but I would put it for now into the D tier. Maybe you have some crazy builds around it. Please feel free to share it down below in the comments, and I will definitely try them out. So I think it is clear that this was the hardest tier list to do, since they are all super close to each other, at least in my opinion. When we are coming to some building guides, you will see that even D-rank combinations can be incredibly overpowered. So just because one of the utility is there in the D-rank, that does not mean there is no use case for it. No, there might be even tons of use cases, and right now I think the balancing in MOCO is really good. What are your thoughts on this tier list and the balancing in general? Feel free to share it down below, and hopefully you have enjoyed this guide. Thank you guys for watching and see you soon.